Welcome to episode 1572 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM El Grego. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mike to count down the top 10 Toronto ghost stories is the official historian of the podcast, Jeremy Hopkin.
The house is haunted by the echo of your last goodbye. The house is haunted by memories that refuse to die. I can't get away from a vision that brings intimate glimpses of intimate things. A voice in my heart like a tart singer sings. I wonder who's kissing her now. The house is haunted by the echo of your favorite song.
Welcome back, Jeremy Hopkin. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Thanks, Mike.
You're now a quarterly guest. Every quarter we count down the top 10 something. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm proud to have made it through a full 4 quarters.
And happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween.
Now, I took a photo with you by the Toronto tree,
Yes.
and if people are listening to this podcast as an audio-only presentation, I am recording the video. You can check that out on my YouTube channel. But, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I want to let the listenership know, check out the photo if you can't see the video, because, J-Ho, you brought it today, man. I was scared when I saw you walking down the street.
I was a little frightened that I might think, or I might make people think that death was coming for them. So,
well, shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. You know the
Yes,
deal around
yes.
here. And why don't we talk about that song off the top? Unless I'm stepping... So I don't know where you're going to go with these stories, but am I stepping on your toes at all if I talk about that song I just played?
no, not at all. It's just I don't have as many details as I
have
would
some
like.
details.
I think it was first premiered for the Gold Diggers of 1933. I'm not sure which movie that was, but I don't know who wrote it, but
I have
I
a
know
mind
a
blow
lot
for
of
you.
people have covered that song, including Mel Torme, K-Star, but yeah, if you have a mind blow,
I have a mind blow for you off the top,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because this is top 10 Toronto ghost stories.
Right on.
And when I heard that song in a video you posted on social media, so you used that song.
Yes,
That's where I
yes.
heard it. And then I said, oh, I don't know this song. It's called The House is Haunted. Very appropriate song. But I'm like, that's a pretty good song for our Halloween spectacular here. But then I did a little research. I'm like, I don't even know, Jeremy, if you know how perfect that song is.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do you know who the artist is behind that version we just heard right now?
Oh, that version there is the Casa Loma Orchestra?
Yeah. But think about, okay, just soak that in, okay?
Yes.
That's Glenn Gray
And the
Casa Loma Orchestra. They were originally, in 1927, that band was known as the Orange Blossoms, and they're a Detroit group. They're not a Toronto group. They're a Detroit group. But then they got an 8-month engagement here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada,
Yes.
at Casa Loma. This is in 1929.
When it was a hotel.
It was a hotel.
Uh-huh.
And they changed their name to the Casa Loma Orchestra, and that's how they got the name. So the name, the Casa Loma Orchestra, of course, is in tribute to our Casa Loma. The song is called The House is Haunted. I can't think of a better song to open up this Halloween episode with Jeremy Hopkin.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad it had even more of a backing there. I did know about the Casa Loma Orchestra, but it's nice that you tied it in even a little more there and brought that up.
Well, look, I have to do something around here, J-Ho. I can't let you do all the work, okay?
For sure.
And before we get to the top 10 Toronto ghost stories here, I want to congratulate you. Of course, you have been nominated for a Heritage Toronto Award.
Yes. I did a project, well, almost a couple of years ago now, where I colorized the oldest panorama that we have of the Toronto skyline that was taken in, they think, around 1857 or 1858. So for years I've been seeing this panorama and loved it, and then realized there's actually 13 pieces. So this is a huge panorama. They don't quite line up, and the grade levels are all off too. So
But no one would notice if you didn't tell us.
unless you told them. But when you try to match them all up into one big panorama, it's really difficult. So I did a lot of work on that. My eyes were bleeding by the end of it. Matt Blackett from Spacing Magazine had sort of the same idea. He was like, I've seen your colorizations. You want to try? And we went ahead and did it, and it became a big feature in the 20th anniversary magazine for Spacing Magazine. So it's in there. In a bunch of pages.
And these awards tomorrow night, am I right? Is it?
No, it's tonight.
Today?
It's tonight. Okay. Not too long after this,
I'll
be heading over there.
I copied this yesterday. So it was tomorrow yesterday, but tomorrow never comes. You know this. Yeah. And I hope you win. If you win a Public History Award, that just means I picked the proper Toronto historian for the Toronto Mike podcast.
I have some definite tough competition though.
Who do you want me to take out? Who are you going up against?
Do you want to take out good old Retro Ontario?
Is that right?
I'm up against him.
I'm torn.
I think the exhibit that you went to on kids TV shows, I think that's up for an award.
Mr. Dress Up and all that good stuff. Okay, it's hard to beat the great one. There.
Everyone nominated did some amazing work, and there's some that has a lot more research than what I did. But then again, you never know. It all depends on.
Who else is up? So those are two valued FOTMs up for this prestigious award, right? I think they gave you a leg lamp. Shout out to Ty the Christmas guy, who, by the way, I'll do this off the top here because we're going to get into scary, creepy, spooky Halloween stories. Mm-hmm. But November 30th at noon, which is a Saturday, so noon to 3 p.m., we're collecting for TMLX 17 at Palma's Kitchen. And Ty the Christmas guy says not only will he be there, he's going to bring something special, okay?
Cool.
I don't know if he's going to bring a leg lamp. I don't know, but he's all about Christmas, Ty the Christmas guy. So he'll be there. And then I remember last time we collected there, that's when I met you, right?
At TMLX 14?
Yeah, at Palma's Kitchen.
Yes.
Though. Okay.
And he also brought something special that day.
Yes, he did. He brought the rifle, and then we were worried that the cops would come if we brought out the rifle at Palma's Kitchen.
And he was also very nice with his company Retro Festive. He brought moose mugs for everybody. He brought.
I thought it was just for Moose Grumpy, but no, it's for all of us.
That was amazing. So I picked up one there, and very happy to have one of those. It's really cool.
I have one too, and so everybody's invited. If I haven't been clear, it's free of charge. Okay, you don't pay. I don't get any money from you, but you do get a free Palma pasta meal. Jeremy, I have a large lasagna in my freezer for you right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
But also, I'll bring some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery, and you can have yourself a beer if you're over 19 years of age.
Wonderful.
I also have some fresh craft beer for you to take home, Jeremy Hopkin.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Great Lakes and Palma. It's been amazing having both your products over the past year, and my family too have enjoyed, not the beer, but the pasta.
I met those kids at Christie Pitts, remember. I don't think they're over 19. I'm going to have to check some ID, but they can have a hop pop.
The very first time being at the Great Lakes Brew Pub was pretty cool.
Monday,
on the
how
last
was
TMLX,
that for you? That was TMLX 16. I'm losing track of
absolutely
numbers
loved
here.
it. Got to meet a lot more FOTMs that I only knew online before, and because I wasn't in the suit, they didn't know who that guy was at first. But
you got to wear that hat.
Yes, some were nice enough to come by and check and talk to me, and we all chatted and stayed there pretty late.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. So thank you to
it's always a fun time.
The GLB Brew Pub. Is a rare TMLX event where Palma's not feeding us because they have a great kitchen there. So we enjoyed their food, which was delicious, and their fresh craft beer. But now I'm going to turn the channel, and it's going to get a little spooky, and then I'll give you more gifts. Maybe after the 5th ghost story, I'll give you more gifts for making the trek here. But less of me, more of you. Are we going 10 to 1?
Yes, we're going 10 to 1. I've got a real list this time. Usually I'm a little mixed up, but I've actually got one. But the first one is the only personal one I have. Everything else is a famous ghost story. But this one is one that is the closest to a ghost story that I personally have. So number 10.
Number 10. I'll do that, okay. I'll do the number 10.
Okay, number 10 is the Cornell Campbell House. Now, you might know downtown there's the Cornell House. There's lots of Cornells and Campbells in Toronto and just Canada-wide. But this is one house that's out in Scarborough, right smack dab beside Scarborough Village Arena. And I don't know if you don't know where it is. That's right at the foot of Markham Road, right at Kingston Road. So at one time, this was a close to 200-acre farm. Over the years, got whittled down to about 3 acres. And there was the Cornell family that lived there for a number of years, including James G. Cornell, who was a reeve of Scarborough. He had a famous dairy business that he eventually created with George S. Henry. That was called Farmers Dairy. They merged, became Acme Farmers Dairy, and it was a huge dairy downtown right by Casaloma. So eventually that was sold off. James G. Cornell passed away. The house goes to his niece because he has no kids. And it turns out the niece is married to Albert Campbell, who is the first Metro chairman of Toronto. And but before then, he was also a reeve of Scarborough for a number of years. So lots of family in this house, lots of history built up over the years. Eventually, Albert Campbell passes away in the 70s from, he had cancer and passed away. His wife lived until 95, though, and passed away in 2005. So here's where I come into the picture. The house sat vacant for a little while, and some people were looking after it, but they said for insurance purposes and also just for sound mind, we need somebody there all the time. And they asked around and said, oh, there's this guy at the Scarborough Historical Society. He's not living anywhere. Well, why not ask him? He likes old stuff. So I said, hell yeah, sure. I'll go in there.
You were living under a bridge? What's going on there?
I wasn't living under a bridge. I was, at the time, I was just, sort of transient every once in a while with my parents.
I dig that, like a hobo.
All over the place. Yeah, a fashionable hobo. There you go.
I dig that vibe. Why not? Live while you can.
Yeah. So, I was going through school and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, I was with the Historical Society for about 15 years. So they trusted me. So I got to live in there for, it turned out 2 years, because they were waiting for, they basically put this house forward and said to the city, do you want to buy it? We would like it to stay with the city and stay as it is, as this little 3-acre farm sort of place with barns and all that kind of stuff. And eventually they did, but they were going through an election, so it took a lot longer. So luckily for me, I got to stay there for a while, and then I got to know the family and started talking. So then one day my girlfriend was over there, and she's in the kitchen of the place, and I'm upstairs. And then I came downstairs. She goes, is anybody in the building besides us? Like, what the heck's going on in this house? And I said, what? She goes, there was like a woman singing a song and walking up and down the halls. I didn't see a thing, though. Where is she? And it's 3 acres, and you have a sight line everywhere. So it's not like anyone could hide after running out of the house.
But she wasn't pulling your leg.
No, she wasn't pulling my leg. She's very sincere. And there had been other times, too, where she was like, there's just something weird about this place, or other things like that, right? She wasn't pulling my leg. And she said, I said, no. And we looked all over the place, didn't see anybody. And it was a big house. Originally, it was a farmhouse that was built in the 1830s. And over the years, around 1910, they bricked it over. So it was a much bigger building. So yeah, months passed, and the Campbells, Albert Campbell's kids, would come by the house for Christmas time. And I said to them, whatever, it's your house. I'll move out while you guys are here. And so they moved in. But we got along and we chatted about the history of the place and all that. And then one day I was talking with David Campbell, and this is the youngest son of Albert Campbell. And he started talking to me about all this stuff. And I said to him, you ever heard anything about a woman singing or anything like that in here? And he goes, oh, that would be May. And I went, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, May was singing and walking around the house one day, and she came into the kitchen here, and she got up on that very stool right there. A lot of the old furniture was still there, and she stood up on that, was cleaning the ceiling here, and we don't know if she had a heart attack and fell down and died, or fell down and died as a result of the fall. But she fell right here in this kitchen, right where we are. And I went, oh my God, the two stories, she didn't know anything about it. He didn't know anything about her seeing that. So I went, that's the closest to a ghost I'll ever see.
Well, that's closer than I've come.
And there's some historical backing to it too, because May Cornell was James G. Cornell's sister, who was a spinster. She never got married, so she ended up living at the house and just living there until she died that day.
Wow, May the ghost. Okay, and your girlfriend at the time?
That was spine tingling, yes, at the time. And I told her, and she just, she was like, yeah,
She was witness to this ghost.
I knew something was going on. She didn't see it, but she heard it, and
Okay.
yeah. So
you know, I'm like Fox Mulder over here. I want to believe. So this is a roaring start that you have a personal anecdote on a Toronto ghost story.
yes, and yeah, so it's not a big famous place, but it does have its ghosts. And
And
David
you were
said,
there.
David said,
as Brother Bill would say,
Yeah.
you were there.
I was there, and I should have. I wished I was kind of willing at saying, please visit me, ghosts. I want to talk to you. I want to know about the little tidbits about stuff, but I've never seen a ghost in my life, never heard a ghost, and
Wow.
so there you go. There's one of them.
Okay, love the personal anecdote off the top here, and in my big radio voice, because you know I spent many years in radio.
Yes.
No, I did not. Come on, that's me wishing when I was a kid. I wish I could be Tom Rivers.
Oh, your voice is just fine. Don't
All right,
worry.
Jeremy, you
It
ready?
Gets the job done.
Let's see if we can do this. Ready?
Yes.
Number 9.
Oh, number 9. Here we go. Now, this is the story of the lighthouse that I've been showing in my promos.
Which is a great promo, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. It's
I showed it to my 8-year-old, and
Oh, cool.
she thought it was because you have that ghost coming out of the lighthouse.
Yes.
And it's like, you're like George Lucas over here, okay? You got the effects.
that was a pretty cheap effect there, but thank you
It
very
worked
much.
for us.
If it
Okay.
works.
It worked. It worked. All right.
So that's when I got trapped on the island one day, and I thought, since I'm trapped here, I was there trying to track down this boat that is older than the Titanic, and they were bringing it from around the Owen Sound area, dragging it through the lakes to Kingston. And so I tried to track it there, and I got some pictures of it, but not what I wanted. So I was stuck on the island, so I thought I'm going to...
But we're stuck on the island, like the ferries were done running,
Yeah, it stuck because it would take a while to get back onto the island.
and you didn't have your kayak with you.
No, and I said, I'm all dressed up. What the heck? I ended up walking from one end of the island to the other, and in this suit. And yeah, got some good video though doing that. But let's get back to the story of the lighthouse. So the lighthouse has been there for a number of years. It was built in let's see, in the late early 1800s. But in
Wow.
1815. The lighthouse keeper that was there was John Paul Rademuller, and he was a lighthouse keeper there for a number of years. But he was rumored to keep some beer on site, and the soldiers that were in the blockhouse in the area would every once in a while come by and visit him and have a drink with him. But this one night in 1815. They say that somebody got into an argument with him over he maybe cut them off, didn't let them have any more booze, and they ended up beating him to death and killing him. But 2 people were tried for it; they were never convicted, and they were actually soldiers that were out of Fort York that were at the blockhouse. But yeah, nothing else really was spoken about it. Some subsequent lighthouse keepers found bones. They didn't know if it was linked to him or not, and also thought they found graves, but who knows whose grave those were or that was. But there is some official documents though, and some historical backing. And more recently, a few people have gone into Radelmuller's history. He was a German man who was in the service of a lot of English aristocracy, also some noblemen. And eventually he grew older and just wanted to retire someplace in Canada. He heard about a lot of the German settlers that were going to Markham, Ontario. He wanted a piece of that and applied and petitioned for land up in Markham, Ontario. But all they could give him, really, they said, well, we don't want to do that. But, you know, there's this lighthouse that we need keeping of. So he spent out the rest of his life there. And so there's a few things that you can prove that he existed, that there was a trial. But as far as how his body was disposed of and what happened, it's still unknown.
And he's the spirit we saw in those videos. So.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, so he's haunting that lighthouse.
Well, he lived in a cottage that was just beside the lighthouse that doesn't exist anymore. It lasted until the 20th century, but they eventually tore it down. But so that's where the incident occurred. But a lot of rumors and a lot of things also circulate the lighthouse, and people say they see his spirit going up to light the lighthouse. And there's also some myths about the 13th step. If you step on the 13th step, that's what he haunts. So over the years, it's grown and grown and grown into this
I remember it as a
urban
kid.
legend.
I remember it as a kid that we were told the lighthouse on the Toronto Island was haunted.
Oh, yes. So it does have an attachment to the lighthouse, and they do people do see spirits going up that lighthouse and up.
Usually
back
after
down.
a few Great Lakes, you have a few GLBs.
There
and
could
you see
be
the
that. Yeah.
spirit.
That's the thing. It's a lot of it's subjective. When you think about a lot of these ghost stories, I always like it when there is some historical backing like that. It would be nice if there was a little bit more, but that's part of the mystery that grows.
Love it. Now you can actually climb up this lighthouse. Like, how do you get in there to hit the 13th step?
Well, it's now not a functioning lighthouse. Fairly recent. Every once in a while, for doors open, it'll be featured, and then you can get up to the top. Or certain special events where someone will do a walking tour and get permission to go up into the lighthouse.
Okay, don't mess with that lighthouse. Now, at TMLX 16, Mark Carey was there. He's the gentleman. I rode around the perimeter of Toronto on a bicycle with Mark Carey.
Oh, amazing.
Just to do it. It was amazing. It was a great ride. I think in total, I'm trying to remember now, 140 kilometers or something in total to go around the perimeter.
Wow.
But he pitched an idea to me at the GLB Brew Pub after a couple of Great Lakes beers. He said, hey, you have a kayak now, because of course I have a kayak now, Jeremy Hopkin.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I'm looking at it right there.
Yes.
It's, right. I've had to bring. I think I might be done for the season.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With that kayak. I'm not sure that kayak wants to go out in the freezing cold, but anyway,
Yes.
which is fine. I'll pick it up again in April or something. But he said, why don't we this time, like next spring or whatever? Why don't we paddle around the Toronto Island?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, like this instead of, so we did the bike ride around the perimeter of Toronto. Next thing to do naturally is to paddle, and I think he's got like a different kind of a boat, but I'll be in my kayak and we'll paddle around the perimeter of the island, and this is my goal for spring summer 2025.
That would be incredible. I guess the only real problem you'd have is on the outside of the island where there's more waves than on the
that's
in.
just, we got to pick the right day, because you're right, the lake can get choppy, and then I'll need that lighthouse, and I know it's haunted, so and if I can break in, I'm going to just hammer that 13th stair, because I want to talk to this guy.
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. Number 9. Okay, you ready, Jeremy?
Yes, number 9.
Number 8.
Oh, yes, 8.
I'm keeping track over here. That's my job as host.
Well, speaking of the urban legends that some of these tales can grow into, there's one of the biggest ones where there is no real proof that these people existed, and that's your alma mater, I guess, U of T, with Reznikov and Diablos.
Love this story.
So the tale goes that just before, I don't know, late 1800s, that that these two stonemasons were, let's see what their full name is, Paul Diablos and Ivan Reznikov. They basically got into a fight over a woman, came at each other with axes and weapons, and to this day you can still see a big chunk out of one of the doors where they had a fight. And there was rumors also that one of their bodies, whoever won, dumped the body of the person that lost into the walls of U of T, which apparently when they had a fire at U of T at, what is that?
Hart House?
University College.
University College, yeah.
University College. They had a fire that basically gutted that whole building, and there was some tales that basically they found a body in the walls and they thought it was one of them, whoever lost. So that's one of the places where stonemasons went largely undocumented back in the day. So really there is no record of these two people existing. They do a lot of ghost tours, and the university actually is very proud of this tale, and it's kind of their spooky ghost story they tell to everybody. But there really hasn't been too much proof behind it yet. So
that's a shame. I have documented what I know to be, obviously, you say there's no documented proof, and you're the official historian, but I'm now looking on TorontoMike.com.
Yes.
I wrote, the name of this entry is U of T Ghost Story, Diablos and Reznikov. And I biked over fairly recently to take a photo by that door with the chunk of the door missing because of an axe, allegedly. And, of course, they named the you can drink at Diablos at U of T, so that was named in honor. But this is quite the story around there. They were sculptors, by the way, working on the construction of University College, I believe. So Reznikov was a Russian from Poland, and
the other one was Greek.
The other was Greek, from Corinth, and basically this confrontation, Diablos had a knife and killed Reznikov, and then you're right, dumped his body there down a well, and he was denied a proper burial, and that basically has caused him to be haunting the college ever since. again, Fox Mulder. I'm going to channel. I'm looking at all these great photos I took, by the way. Good job, Mike. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
It's there's another legend there that the axe battle continued atop the Soldiers Memorial Tower, and that's where Reznikov fell to his death or whatever. So I want to believe this to be true, Jeremy. So I hope this story's true. It's a great story.
The Soldiers Memorial, wasn't that made in World War One or just after World War One?
Well, you're
Or am
the
I
official.
confusing my memorials,
I'm
though?
looking at it now, but we'll dig into that. But by the
Okay.
way, I think Diablo's is a coffee bar, so they were drinking coffee there. So that's.
They got into a fight over a coffee,
I was the only one sipping Great Lakes beer there, but
and he brought a knife to an axe fight. And he
you
lost.
bring a knife to a gunfight. He was bringing a knife to an axe fight. So I'm so glad you included this story, a great U of T story that I've been hearing forever.
Oh, for
And,
sure.
Again,
It's legendary.
and it is just amazing. You can actually go and you can touch the where the allegedly that axe hit the door. It does look like an
Yes.
axe hit that door. So I don't know what the real story is, but
I've heard a lot of the people on the tour actually tell you if you touch that, you're cursed.
I've done that. I've touched
yeah.
it. Well, that explains everything.
Oh no.
J-Ho, that explains everything. Okay. Love this. We've been to the Toronto Island now, and that's a story I grew up hearing. Now we got the U of T story. Number 7.
Yes. This is the Keg Mansion. And if you've been to the Keg Mansion, it was, you probably see a little bit or hear a little bit about the history where it started off as a mansion built by Arthur McMaster. But when the Masseys came there in 1882, they expanded the building and made it their own. Massey, you'll probably know his name from Massey Hall, but that was his foundation that gave money towards Massey Hall. He was passed away by that point, so his relatives and everyone continued on to make great things like that. He was an industrialist. Eventually, his company.
Wait, is this Vincent Massey?
This is actually
different-
Hart Massey.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Vincent Massey is another Massey.
Yeah, that's like
only because I
grandkid.
got to shout out Andy's on the live stream, and Andy's the biggest Degrassi fan I know. And the Degrassi Junior High, the facade is in this neighborhood, New Toronto, and it's Vincent Massey School. Like you can go there now. We could walk over there and take a photo by it. But a different Massey. Please continue.
Very cool. Eventually it became, his company became Massey Harris, which made tons of farm machinery across the country and was huge. So eventually the building was given to U of T Victoria
Is
College.
it Massey Harris or Massey Ferguson?
Oh, sorry. It became Massey Ferguson after Massey
Okay,
Harris.
good. That's a fun fact.
It's evolved over the years.
Okay.
So Massey Harris had a huge factory here in Toronto, in Liberty Village.
Okay.
And there is still a few of the offices left over, and also part of the old jail that used to be there, the Central Prison.
Wow.
So let's see here. The building was also the first home of CFRB. And
Canada's first radioless battery? Do I have that right? Or first radio batteryless?
Canada's first
Radio batteryless?
CFRB.
I can Google this one, but I'm pretty sure it's something like
Canada's
radioless.
first Rogers batteryless.
I thought the R was originally like before it was they decided to like reinvent it as Rogers, but it was radioless battery. I will Google the original call.
Batteryless radio. Rogers was the first in Canada to have a batteryless radio where you could actually plug it into a wall. Or early on, there was only light sockets that you could plug these radios into.
Okay, so there depends on your source, but it seems to mean Canada's first Rogers batteryless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, always got to stick Rogers in there. They did it to Skydome and they did it at CFRB.
Yeah, that was their company, and there were a lot of companies snuck their names in there or their catchphrases whenever they own these radio stations.
And now there's a Rogers Stadium coming to Downsview Park. Will that be haunted?
It could be by some of the old aviators that were there. You never know.
You know what? We got to keep our eye on that. So who's haunted? Sorry, I
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got off track
I
too.
need to know. I know. It's because I jump on these tangents, but I need to know who's the ghost and what are they doing?
No worries. So eventually it became Julie's Mansion, and then became the Keg Mansion in the 70s. And ever since it had anyone really there visiting, there was a lot of the staff that's there and a lot of the visitors were just seeing weird things and reporting it. And eventually these stories added up, and people would see ghosts. And eventually they attributed some of the ghosts to some of the Massey family that were living there, including let's see here. There is one of the big ones there is the Lillian Treble Massey, who was the daughter of Hart Massey. She eventually took over the house. When she died, she was in her 60s. apparently it was a very traumatic death, and even her maid was traumatized by this and hung herself.
Oh.
So people say that they see Lillian Treble Massey, but they also see her maid too, who died by hanging on one of the railings in the mansion. So apparently at the entranceway, every once in a while, someone sees someone swinging. And yeah, and they also notice temperature changes when they're eating, which is a signature of ghosts in a lot of places where the temperature will drop down low and then people will see spirits and certain things happening. There's also a boy ghost rumored to be floating around there that was claimed to be a visitor of the Masseys.
Was his name Casper?
It wasn't Casper, but I've heard he's fairly friendly. So they have sightings of him on the staircase, and also there is a sound of children playing upstairs all the time. So
That's the sound of children playing when there
That's
are
a
no
freaky
children
one.
to be seen. That is the creepiest sound in the world. Okay.
it is.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm really in the mood right now. We are recording this, just for the record. It's October 28th today, and it's a Monday, and Halloween is on Thursday. And it's like I'm really feeling it right now. This might be my favorite holiday of the year is Halloween.
Oh, same here. It's one of mine.
Okay.
Christmas and Halloween. I could watch stuff from Christmas and Halloween all year round. It's entertaining.
And we're only 4 deep here, and I'm feeling it. I can't believe
good.
we got so many more to go. Okay.
Okay.
Number 6.
Number 6, we've actually some of these we've already talked about in other references.
Well, let's
but
pretend this is their first episode of Jeremy Hopkin, because after this episode, listeners are going to go back and hear your previous 3 visits, because you visit every quarter, and you'll be back the first quarter of 2025.
Oh, amazing. I would love to.
And will you be at TMLX 17 at Palma's Kitchen? I didn't quite get an answer from you. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I've answered your Facebook request and everything for that. Yeah,
I'm out of the loop. Listen, because I'd cancel it if you weren't able to make it here.
Well, thank you.
And here, before we get to number 6,
Yes.
I did already shout out Andy on the live stream, but I want to shout out Ian Service on the live stream. I want to shout out Midtown Gord, who popped in. He just checked in to see what condition our condition was in. No, just kidding. He just popped in to say he's sorry you can't stick around, but he says Halloween is his favorite time too. Nice. I think it's because there's no religion involved. I mean, the origins are religious, but we've stripped all the religion out of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everyone can participate, and it's the kids love it because they dress up and go door to door, trick or treat, and it's a vibe I can really get into. It's a time of year where, I mean, we might have, I don't know if you've checked the forecast, but this could be like close to 20 degrees or something when we're trick-or-treating on Thursday.
Yeah,
which is insane.
A stark difference to how it's been in the past. And
well, remember as a kid, we'd put our costumes on over our winter jackets?
Yeah. You go to all that trouble to make a costume, and then you got to throw a winter jacket on it. It kind of spoiled it.
Okay, so shout out to Midtown Gord. Midtown Gord, I have a book for you. I did some spring cleaning down here, and even though it's autumn, okay, we'll call it autumn cleaning. And I found a book that, to me, it's an amazing book. It was gifted to me by somebody. I don't want to spoil it for Midtown Gord, but it looks like it's custom made for this guy. And and he lives near Casa Loma. Okay,
cool.
So it all comes back to Casa Loma. But I'm going to get this to you, Midtown Gord. I want to shout out Moose Grumpy, and I want to shout out Lethbridge Wayne as well. He's a big Hebsy head, and used to come out for every single Hebsy on Sports. And shout out to, we're speaking of things that have passed away. Hebsy on Sports, shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Jeremy, you got a measuring tape.
Yes.
Don't forget to take that home. You
Right
can measure everything and anything.
I'm going to have 4 now.
You got, you know what? You get collect the whole set. They're like Pogs or something like that. Here, you got to collect them all. Oh, that's Pokemon. So what do I know? All right, my friend, number 6.
Okay, number 6. We've mentioned we already talked about this one, but we didn't talk about the ghosts. The Elgin and Winter Garden Theater.
Okay.
It's a National Historic Site, the only double-decker Edwardian theater in all the world. And we're lucky to have it here in Toronto, and it's really cool that they've made it viable. The only thing is, though, by making it viable, they've stirred up some old ghosts.
Wow.
That have never really quite left the place. Apparently, it was built in 1913, but after they restored it in the 1980s, a lot of the people that worked there started to notice these weird things happening all the time. To the point where they actually got a Ouija board and started just seeing if they could summon anyone and find out some names. So one day they went on the Ouija board and they asked, and it turned out someone named Sam was there, and he was a trombone player at something that played in 1918 at the theater, and he just never left. So they talked to him.
That's spooky, man.
It just kept moving on its own, and they found out that with the Ouija board. They haven't really heard too much from Sam since, but every once in a while they do hear weird noises. But there are bands and there are performances that are practicing off to the side. But even when there's no one practicing, they still hear these strange sounds every once in a while that sound like people are there.
Jeez Louise. And as I recall, we went into detail about this venue when we were talking about The Shape of Water, right?
Yes.
They filmed The Shape of Water. In fact, you mentioned Massey Hall earlier. She lived in Massey Hall or something.
Yeah.
And then they would show Elgin Winter Garden Theater.
Yeah, with that, they felt it was more appropriate to have the front as her place, and also and that was the front of Massey Hall. But when you go inside, it's the theater at Elgin Winter Garden.
Because who would know except for us, right?
Yeah.
It's just Toronto heads that'll know what's going on there.
You notice the sculptures there, and it's not quite. No, that's not Massey Hall. It's got to be somewhere else. And yeah, there you go.
So, I mean, you're not a ghost expert. You're an official historian here.
Yes.
But Sam is just hanging around. Like, Sam doesn't have a vendetta against... Nobody tried to kill him or anything. He's just hanging around.
No, I think he just liked playing, and he's just still hanging around. Sometimes people think that ghosts aren't really, they're not really haunting. They're more of an echo of someone that had been there as well. So these things that we're hearing are just sort of the energy being given off at random in certain spots. So there's a lot of theories behind what ghosts are or if they even exist.
Well, obviously, we don't have definitive proof of Sam, right?
Yeah,
These are, and again, all of this is therapeutic. Like, I want to believe, but these are fun stories for a Halloween episode of Toronto Mike. But Sam, if he could perform... They would sell out that place every night. Who would want to go see a ghost performing at the Elgin Winter Garden Theater?
That would be a huge attraction.
That's it. Okay, so shout out to Sam.
So
Sorry,
there's a few other ghosts flying around there too. There's also a very famous one called the Lavender Lady, who apparently when she appears at the grand staircase and also in the elevators, which are the original elevators from 1913 that they've repaired and they have running still there. So in any of these accounts, when people do see her, again, the temperature goes down low, and then people will spy a vision of her either at the staircase or the elevators. And one thing in particular with her is that they always smell flowers or like a lavender smell. That was just her perfume or something.
Could be worse, right? That's not so bad.
Yes, from what I've heard from some ghosts, they leave a pretty nasty smell.
Like,
so,
what's your signature scent? You decaying raccoons. Because she smells like lavender.
Yeah, not bad.
It's sort of like freshly baked croissants or something. I want that to be my signature scent. Give me a break. Or fresh chocolate chip cookies coming out of the oven or something.
Very cool. She got famous to the point where so many people had seen her that Canada Post even put out a stamp with her on it. So, and it was not too long ago, maybe 10 years, something like that.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to borrow a plot point from one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh.
Once Canada Post recognizes you exist, right? Putting the Lavender Lady on a stamp.
Yes.
That's enough proof for me. In the court of law, we deem the Lavender Lady exists.
Right on.
Okay.
Oh, that reminds me of another fact with the lighthouse. The lighthouse actually mentions the ghosts on the historical plaque, and it's the only historical plaque that ever mentions a ghost.
It's enough for me, man.
And so that's kind of official there too. But it was to the point where people were angry about it back in the 50s when they put it there. So
right,
it's just an aside of it. They're like, that's not historical.
Well, that's a fun conversation to have. Like, can historians have fun with these kind of legends and myths, or do they need to stick to the facts? And if they veer off into the, a Halloween special talking about a ghost that maybe there's no definitive proof exists, does that detract from all the proper factual history that historian is sharing with the masses?
It very well could. I don't care.
Well, come back tomorrow. We'll do 90 minutes on this. I'll do 90 minutes.
No, I mean, I don't care in that. You have to have fun with this kind of stuff. And it makes it interesting for people, because if you just drone on about history, it puts everyone to sleep. But if you can make it interesting and throw that in, it's good.
To borrow a line from Mary Poppins. So my 8-year-old learned about Mary Poppins from The Simpsons because she loves the Sherry Bobbins episode. So I'm like, we got Disney Plus. You're watching The Simpsons on it right now. Let's watch Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. And we watched it. And of course, one of the great songs is "A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down." And I feel like these ghost stories, that's the sugar. Yes. And you're wrapping around these stories. You're wrapping around bona fide historical facts. And people will come for the ghost stories, and they won't even know you were teaching these people.
Yes, I like your thinking on that. They won't know that they were learning.
I learned everything from Mary Poppins. Okay.
Very cool. There is a couple other ghosts that are floating around.
Let's
there
hear
too.
about all of them. You just tap your nose when it's on to the next one.
Okay. There's a voice in the dark apparently that every once in a while there's a woman that just calls to people, and
I think that's Cynthia Dale.
she knows your name apparently, because she'll actually call you by name, and you look around. There's nobody in the place, and it just keeps happening there. So they don't know who it was. They don't know what it is. There's no one playing tricks. It's just, yeah.
Mine playing tricks on me.
During the production of Cats, there was a man with a bowler hat spied outside in the crowd. Well, not the crowd, sorry, in the stands, in the seats.
Right.
And it was a closed set. There was nobody allowed in the place. There was no guests. And they kept seeing this person to the point where the production manager said, well, if they're going to be sitting there, we got to charge them at least. And they went to go see the guy and say, hey, who are you? And he just disappeared. And apparently showed up a few other times too, kept disappearing on them. And they said, well, there's...
Bowler hat, you say? I think that man was Jeremy Hopkin.
It could have been. You never know. Actually, I don't have a bowler right now. I need to get one of those again.
You know, it's funny. I said bowler hat, and in my mind, I'm not even sure exactly. Is it round on the top?
Yeah, it's round on the top, like the Tramp, like Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton. Got you now. Okay.
Well, actually, no, he had more of a flattened one. Yeah.
See, I don't know my hats. Like, I feel like I need a hat expert on to explain all these different hats. I know pork pie hat because there's a couple of FOTMs have been rocking it lately.
That's what Buster has, pork pie.
Pork pie hat. See, I think if I become a hat guy, I think I'll become a pork pie hat guy.
Oh, very cool.
Know? Okay. Keep rocking with this Elgin Winter Garden Theater haunting.
Okay, well, it turns out that's the last ghost that I had, but there is a lot of other weird things that have happened there that people have mentioned, and they haven't given a name to that ghost yet. So who knows? Eventually there might be some trends where more ghosts evolve out of the place.
Number 5.
Osgood Hall.
Okay.
It's one of the buildings that actually features prominently in that panorama that I got from 1857 to colorize. It has been there since 1832, one of the longest standing Toronto buildings. It started off as basically the main regulatory body for all lawyers in Ontario, and eventually has become home of the Ontario the Ontario Law Society, and also had courts in there for years. There's supposed to be several ghosts floating around in Osgood Hall as well, including there's a man that keeps appearing who looks like he's studying very, very vigorously in the library beyond the time it closed. And
after hours.
Lots of security guards after hours have gone to tell this person, hey, you can't study here, because they just think they've stayed in past the closing time and didn't realize. And the person just disappears on them and into thin air. So, and it happened numerous times to the point where he became a known person that was there.
But enough about Lauren Honickman. Let's get back to the ghosts.
So there, and apparently the head librarian and security and a few other people have seen that ghost. There's also some in Convocation Hall that appear from time to time where it sounds like there's a party going on, which is parties are going there all the time, but not a person is in there.
Well, I can tell you my graduation ceremony took place at Convocation Hall, and that day it was definitely haunted, okay? Because Ivan Reitman was giving a speech, and Norman Jewison was on the stage when I went up to get my my diploma. An intimate setting, me and like 2,000 other graduates. What a great day.
Ivan Reitman, though, wow.
Yeah, he was a keynote speaker.
Inspiration for some of the ghosts?
Well, you know what? Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing it all back. It all comes back to Ghostbusters.
Now,
you kidding me?
Now his kid Jason's taking on the mantle.
Jason Reitman, absolutely. Although I did watch this Jason Reitman Ghostbusters, and I will say this, and I'm going to sound like I'm Abe Simpson, but I'm watching it, and I'm like, I guess I know why we keep rebooting things, because not everybody is my age. There's a new gen and all this stuff. But what's the point of this? I'm like, people should just watch the original. But then I realized, I'm talking like a 50-year-old, okay? My 20-year-old daughter is more likely to tune into the new reboot than the 1984 or whatever the hell it was.
Well, you're not as bad as a lot of the 50-year-olds that talk about the one with all the women in it. What's that one? They've erased that one off the face of the earth.
Funny you mention that, because there is a character who there's hints that this woman is gay. Okay, there's hints, like super hints.
Yes.
And to me, it's almost like obvious, but they don't go all the way. It's like go all the way. They hint at it, they play with it, they put it in your mind, but they don't actually state it or give you. They sort of like these ghosts. Okay, we think there's a ghost at Osgood Hall. Okay, but we don't have any video of this ghost. We can't say definitively there's this ghost.
Yeah, that's the thing. For a number of years, there were a lot of people that claimed that they had recorded ghosts, but it just turned out, they were like, oh, that's the spirit, that's their orb floating around, but really it's just a piece of dust
or a flaw in the film or whatever
that's lit up into the camera, and it looks like something, but yeah.
It's like they said all these UFO sightings declined when everybody had a camera in their pockets.
Yes.
Like once you had a video camera in your pockets, there were far fewer UFO sightings.
Some people want to believe so hard that they see stuff.
Enough about Fox Mulder, okay?
Yeah,
by the way, that's a show I'll say.
Oh,
I loved that
X-Files.
show. It was appointment viewing for me. I love the dynamic between Mulder and Scully, and I like the whole idea of Monster of the Week, and I like that there was also this like thread throughout. I kind of like that style where you could drop in and watch an episode; it would stand alone, but there were threads that were what's the term I'm looking for when something is builds. It's not they don't stand alone.
Oh yes, it's
it's not episodic. It's
sequential, or I'm not sure.
Oh God, what is wrong with Jeremy? I'm not fixing this in
sorry.
post. We're gonna be embarrassed. But I loved your number 5 here. You ready for number 4?
Sure. There's one more ghost though I
Okay,
had to talk
hit me.
about. At Convocation Hall, there's also a woman in white that apparently goes there in a white dress and just weeps at the foot of one of the portraits and cries over and over again, and then disappears and comes back and cries again. So I'm not sure if they've come with any kind of a historical backing on who that would be, or what they didn't really say what portrait it was either. So I'd like to dig into that a little more.
Dig into that, because maybe next October we can do like another 10, and then you could kind of fill us in on those cracks here.
And that's one thing I love about Toronto history, is just digging in. And I do a lot of my own research and dig into the old newspapers and books and accounts and try to actually get some more back into all these stories. But sometimes it's a wild goose chase and there's nothing out there. But hopefully I find something.
It's possible the term I was looking for is progression, but I'm not sure that's actually the word I was looking for. I feel like my word started with an A, but not episodic, but progression.
Okay, so there's a building progression in there, so that it builds on the story.
Like The Wire, okay? The Wire episodes don't stand alone. There's an arc that continues throughout the 5 seasons.
Yeah, the characters are actually characters. They've built up a history.
Right. And shout out to Molly Johnson, whose brother created The Wire. Everybody knows this, okay? That ain't no ghost story. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. And the Huey Lewis.
Oh.
Is it Huey Lewis stole I Want a New Drug from Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters song? Is that the story?
Oh my God.
Not a ghost story. I know, and that's putting you on the spot. I'm gonna say that, okay, and then I'll do a fact check later. I believe I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News. They had to either give a writing credit or they had to compensate somehow, or that they borrowed the tune from Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow.
This is not a ghost story. That's another story. But I am going to take a moment to give you another gift, Jeremy.
Oh, very cool. Thank you.
Did you get a wireless speaker in any of your previous 3 visits?
I did, I think, on the very first visit.
See, because you come every quarter, you're picking up the Moneris sponsorship swag. But I have another one for you, because I know you got kids. That is a wireless speaker from Moneris. And the intent here is that you will go home and subscribe. Oh, you don't have to wait till you get home. Subscribe right now. Subscribe to Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. I already know, Jeremy, you like a good story. You're a storyteller.
Sure. And Al has some great stories about small businesses across the country. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool. Al Grego went to Winnipeg. And things get spicy in episode 3 of season 7, because Al visited Nikhil Dutt, owner of Spice Circle in Winnipeg. His family opened the restaurant in 2019, despite having no prior business experience. So if you want a scary story, if you want a frightening tale, imagine opening a restaurant with no prior business experience. That's always frightening.
It's very scary.
Now imagine doing it in 2019 when you know what looms in 2020.
Ooh.
Okay, this is scary. I'm scared right now. But if you have the courage, subscribe to Yes, We Are Open and enjoy season 7. speaking of courage, okay, I did some autumn cleaning the other day, and I have so many old laptops, old cables, just old electronics that I've been holding on to forever. Some of this stuff goes back to the 80s. You won't believe the junk I have, and I am 100% going to recyclemyelectronics.ca. I'm going to stick in my new Toronto postal code and find out where am I dropping this all off at to be properly recycled so these chemicals don't end up in our landfill. And I urge everyone to do the same, including you, Mr. Hopkin.
Sounds good.
But don't recycle that speaker. It's a quality speaker. Okay.
Definitely
and you're going to be
not.
listening to Yes, We Are Open. And now, without further ado,
Right on.
I get to tell you we're doing number 4.
Yes, number 4. Have you heard of the Etobicoke poltergeist?
I haven't, but I'm wondering now if this will somehow lead back to Commandant Lassard and the Mimico Psychiatric Hospital.
Unfortunately, I left the Mimico one.
Is that
out.
for next year?
That's for next year.
Okay, we got to keep
But-
some gold for next year.
Yes, it does have some ghost stories for sure. But this one is this one's a house at 184 Prince Edward Drive.
Okay.
It's still there today. And I looked on the maps, the old aerial maps and a few historical Godes atlases, and I saw that there was this one house that stuck out of the whole neighborhood that existed there even way back when it was farmland.
Yeah.
And it was this house. So this is an old clapboard house that's in the middle of a neighborhood that was built in the 20s and the 30s. But in the 1960s, 1968, for 10 days, the family that was living there, it was a family, Roy and Carol Hawkins, and their 3 children. They were plagued by a poltergeist for 10 days in a row, to the point where their psychiatrist actually had them on sleeping pills, and they just were having horrible things happen. Even the family cat got thrown against a wall, banging, crashing.
If I may, Jeremy, and again, I want to hear the full story,
Yes.
but if you're being haunted for 10 days, firstly, it takes me less than 1 day of being haunted before I'm in a hotel.
Maybe that was a progression too. It just built up over the
Who
over the
sticks
days.
it
but
out?
They
Okay,
stuck
guys,
it out.
it's day 10.
Hey, they were tough. They were from
Cats are being flown. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. I know it's been a tough week, guys. We're gonna go for week 2 here. Wow, and I know where Prince Edward Drive is.
Yes.
I might make a bike ride over just to see 184 Prince Edward Drive. So please continue your story, but I think sticking it out for 10 days, that family.
Yeah. Well, they were tough.
And what year was this?
They were from Newfoundland. Very tough people. They came in there and they were like, no, we're
Say
staying.
no more, J-Ho. Say no more.
And this is 1968. So it was in
68,
between April and May in 1968. And they it got to the point where the Toronto Star sent a couple of reporters out, and they saw what was going on, and they still claim, even in more recent Toronto Star reports about the house, that what we saw, that was happening. It actually was happening.
So they sent Rosie DeMano in 68.
Well, this was let's see, Ben Rayner and John Galt. There you go.
Well, Ben knows his maritime. I know. Oh, Mike, what did you learn from Heather Bambrick? You learned that Newfoundland is not the Maritimes. That's a Toronto mistake, and you sound ignorant. It's Atlantic Canada.
So, the doctors put them on tranquilizers after the cat got thrown on the wall, and crowds of kids showed up at this place, and adults, just to see the next thing happening. And they eventually brought people in to perform an exorcism. And they performed an exorcism on the place, and apparently after that there was nothing happened. And even to this day, people are living in it. There's been no reports about anything happening in that area since.
And what year was The Exorcist again?
The Exorcist was in the same year, 68. The Exorcist
Any inspiration one to the other? I'm wondering if there's some synergy here.
I'm not sure. I know.
Because when's the last time you heard about a good exorcism?
It's been a long time, and it's only really in that
Exorcisms.
time period.
By the way, I'm just going to connect some dots. So exorcisms seemed to peak in 1968, around that time.
Oh,
Also, the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey franchise peaks around that time. They were Stanley Cup champions in early 1968 because they last won the cup in 1967. So maybe there's a correlation here. I
think some drugs peaked around that time too. So I don't know.
Oh, give me some hair, long, beautiful hair. Love it. So thank you for an Etobicoke story, and I love that we're holding on to the it had many names. It had many names, but the Mimico Psychiatric Hospital.
This one's the Etobicoke poltergeist, but yeah, we will get back to Mimico though as well.
And I love the fact we can do 10 more next October.
For sure. And there's Toronto is a young place, but we definitely have a lot of ghost stories connected to our building. So,
and 3 big ones yet to come here.
Yes,
I'm trying to, my mind's racing, trying to guess what's coming. But I love knowing that whatever we miss this round, we're going to pick up next year. Okay, so Jeremy Hopkin, top 10 Toronto ghost stories. You still got more on number 4 there.
I just have one little tidbit.
Please.
I actually checked the newspaper listings for after that poltergeist event happened, and I saw a listing in July for that place to be up for rent. So you
could rent the haunted home in Etobicoke.
You could rent it right after that. The people moved out. There was an exorcism. The ghosts left, but they were fed up and they left. So
love it. That's a local story. I love it so much. Okay.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring a little Etobicoke flavor in here. I didn't have a new Toronto one though. I'll try to get one.
There's got to be a new Toronto. Actually, I'll tell you one later. There was a hotel, 3rd and Lakeshore. It's funny because until fairly recently, it was a swingers club. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was a hotel. And I believe the owner of the hotel was murdered in New Toronto. There's a wicked awesome New Toronto haunting ghost story. And that plus the Mimico Psychiatric Hospital will be 2 of the 10 we discussed in October 2025. So keep that subscription to Toronto Mike because it's going to come in handy in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Old City Hall. Where you had one of your marriages, I think.
Thank you for remembering. One of my weddings, one of my marriages took place at Old City Hall. Yeah. And that's what caused it to be haunted.
And now the ghost of that marriage is floating around that place. Shout out Ridley Funeral Home.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. They can't all go long, okay?
No. So reports of ghosts being there began in 1965 when it also became a courthouse. There was more people in the building much later and people there in the holding cell, so they started to get a lot of these creepy stories where they'd get ghost hauntings and that sort of but one of the most famous ones is Arthur Lucas and Ronald Turpin are apparently still haunting that place. They were the last 2 men that were convicted to hang, and that's where they were convicted. Apparently the court where they were sentenced, courtroom 125, formerly courtroom number 33, is the courtroom that they're still haunting today. And a lot of reporters go by on the anniversary of their conviction and try to see if they can pick up on anything floating around there. So, Robert,
1965 is the last time we had a capital punishment and sentenced somebody to die by hanging.
Yes.
You know what? We're not that far. We were born shortly thereafter in the relative timelines here. And it's kind of wild to think that you could be sentenced at Old City Hall. You could be sentenced to death by hanging in 1965.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And one was convicted of killing a police officer. The other one killed an undercover narcotics agent. So they did some definite crimes where they took a life, but yeah, it's a much different world now that's been stopped because there were a lot of people convicted that really were wrongfully convicted, and there's no turning back from a death sentence. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, and they're haunting the old. So, what is? Do you know the date?
I don't know the date on the conviction.
I want to take a bike ride over to Old City Hall and see if I can see Lucas or Terrapin.
I can find that out pretty quick though, but 1899 is when the place was built, so there definitely has to be some more ghosts than that around the area. Judges have also heard mysterious footprints, footsteps. It might not be them. It could be some of the other ghosts of people convicted there. They've also felt their robes being tugged from the staircase, and
whoa! Keep it clean, Jeremy. I don't need to know about robes being tugged.
Oh, robes.
Robes. Okay. So, okay. Wasn't your first topic? So your 4th appearance on Toronto Mike.
Yes.
Every quarter you're here, but didn't we? We did buildings that were almost destroyed but weren't.
Yes.
Isn't Old City Hall on that list that you talked to us?
That was also on the list of that one. It came very close, and a lot of people protested and rebelled against it, and basically made the city submit into saving it.
Do you think Lucas and Terrapin were protesting against it? Like, that's their haunting grounds.
Yeah, because once the building's gone, you're kind of haunting air, and the people can't make a good sighting that way usually. Because when you think about it, like a lot of the area that was inhabited by indigenous people for years before us, if there's ghosts, there has to be some of them ghosting around as well. So, you know, if you don't have a building location still there, it's
Right.
a little trickier to see them
And
out in the open.
That is a nice way to tease. Another of your appearances
Yes.
was 10 Toronto buildings that we should not have destroyed but did. And I wonder if you're haunting a building, like an old building, and then Toronto decides in their wisdom to destroy that, to demolish that building, where do you go?
I don't know if the ghosts are indeed attached to the physical material, and you know, some kind of an echo is attached to that. It goes to the dump, I guess. And do you really want to hump it or haunt a dump for the rest of your life?
I told you to stop working blue, Jeremy.
Sorry,
But now I'm thinking you're dying twice, right? Like that's a double shock power. Ridley Funeral Home, shout out.
even the first ghost that I mentioned, the one that I experienced, or my girlfriend at the time experienced, even that one I was kind of thinking, oh, so is she doomed to clean her whole afterlife? Like, I hope not.
That
So,
sucks.
Yeah, who knows how ghosts work, but that would be odd.
Maybe it's like It's a Wonderful Life, where you just need to do that. You need to do something to get promoted or whatever, right?
Get your wings.
Yeah, get your wings. And,
Ring a bell.
No, attaboy, Clarence. Okay. Jeez, we'll more on this.
Merry Christmas, you old building alone.
Oh my God. Oh, I love it. I love that movie so much. Even thinking about it now, I'm tearing up. I think that is one of the greatest movies ever
It is sweet.
crafted.
Some people call it Capricorn, but it hits. We
Hook
watch
it to my
we
veins,
watch it
man.
every year though.
Hook it to my. But there's some people out there who will be like, oh, in Field of Dreams when he plays catch with his dad, it's so manipulative or whatever. I'm like, no, it makes me cry. Hook it to my veins.
Mhm,
Okay, stop raining on my parade over here. Okay, I need to be in touch.
You
with
got to
my
clean out the tear ducts once in a while.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Keep them healthy. Yeah.
feelings. Every single April when the Leafs get swept in the first round. Just kidding. Okay, all right, my friend.
All right.
Number 2.
Number 2 is a museum in Toronto, the Mackenzie House. And this was home for a time to Toronto's first mayor, William Lyon Mackenzie. He passed away there as well in that building, and it's on 82 Bond Street, so right in the heart of downtown. When it became a museum is when people really started noticing odd things going on after hours. And at night, they'd see the printing press that's there operating on its own. And the ghost was, here's another official thing. The ghost was actually listed on one of the official contents inventories of the museum. They listed all these items that were in the museum and one ghost. So apparently
that's enough for me.
and there's no longer night staff at the museum. That might change depending on the time of year, but the spirits could still be there, but people aren't quite seeing them as much as they used to. But that could also be because also there, they did an exorcism there as well to rid the place of the spirits. And so maybe Mackenzie was kicked out.
I feel like we could do an entire episode on William Lyon Mackenzie.
Oh,
There's a lot of meat on that bone.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely a lot with rebellions and a lot of the things he did were just he just pushed right ahead.
Well, you know what? Take a note, because if you're coming every
For sure.
quarter for the next 20, what is your contract? 25 years? I'm watching the show on
yeah.
HBO, Winning Time. Okay, and they only made 2 seasons, but I love this show.
Oh,
And the guy Jerry Buss, he gives Magic Johnson a 25-year contract, $1 million a year for 25 years. Back when that was huge money,
Yeah,
and it's kind of a plot point or whatever. I'm not sure Kareem Abdul-Jabbar loves this, but it's all very interesting about the primetime Lakers. And I should just share with the listenership that I made a similar offer to you, 25-year deal, 1 million. Cans of beer and Palma pasta lasagna is
hey,
what you're compensated.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's a lot of good food and good drink here. Okay, I'm going to say this in my best Hebsy voice. You ready?
Yes.
Number 1.
The Hockey Hall of Fame.
Woo!
Thought you might like some hockey in there as well.
Yeah, and shout out to FOTM Kevin Shea.
Kevin Shea is actually the gentleman who introduced me to you. And
Is that, you know, I don't know this story.
and got us lined up.
Do I know this story?
You might not. I haven't told it yet.
I don't know it.
I went to a TMLX, the very first one, and Kevin writes me after because he's followed me online for a long time.
The first TMLX event?
Yeah, I went to the first one that I went to, 14.
Oh, number 14,
Yeah,
so the
I was there.
14th TMLX.
So I'd never been to one before, but when he saw that I was here, he wrote me and said, "Have you ever been on Toronto Mic'd?" And I said, "No, that'd be cool though. He seems like a cool guy to talk to, and yeah, I like his show." And he's like, "Okay, I'll see." And next thing you know, I'm scheduled to go on Toronto Mic'd. So
Sorry, I don't remember that at all. What I
Yeah.
remember is, these TMLX events, you really never know who's going to show up.
Oh, you meet so many people, though. How do you remember it all?
Well, you just because I only have ever had one where I had RSVPing, which was the most recent one at GLB Brew Pub, because they said I had to cap it at 40 because of the venue and the free drink and food and stuff like that. But for TMLX 17, which is November 30th, 2024, I don't actually play that game. It's like, come or don't come. You know, it's going to be a great time. It's free. You'll get food. You get drink. But I'm not going to make you come. And you did just show up, and I didn't know who you were, but you were interesting on the mic because we record live from Palma's Kitchen.
Yeah,
and you popped on the mic, and then I'm like, I like the cut of this guy's jib. So I don't actually have any memory of Kevin Shea playing a role in this, except my memory is you're at TMLX, you're on the mic. I found you interesting. And I thought we should do a deeper dive on this podcast.
Yeah. So I think that's where it lined up, but maybe
but
not.
No, but Kevin Shea is a sweetheart,
yeah.
And he has brought on a couple of interesting guests on this
for
program.
sure.
So and he'd be in that list.
Even him as a guest, just like the amount of stories he has about bands and like even his Nirvana involvement. I couldn't believe he was basically
wearing a
the guy
diaper
that brought them here as well.
Well, yeah, he had to promote it to Canadian radio stations.
Yeah.
The Nirvana, he's got great Weird Al Yankovic stories. Yeah. He's got Motley Crue stories. I think he's got some Guns N' Roses stories. But then you can say, hey, let's do a Bill Barilko episode or a hockey episode.
Oh, for sure.
He's your Bill Barilko guy.
Yeah, he's also got another book coming out too. He's very prolific with his books. So, yeah.
God, it's the
very cool.
Kevin Shea Lovin'.
I still haven't
episode.
met him. I would love to meet him one day.
Well,
Maybe
let me do my
he
might. He's a sweetheart. I will do my best to get Kevin Shea to come to TMLX 17 at Palma's Kitchen here. But Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the Hockey Hall of Fame. A lot of people don't know that it originally was a Bank of Montreal, a big branch of the Bank of Montreal. Very beautiful inside. It was built in 1885. It was on the list of, a lot of our buildings that were historically relevant and saved for their architecture.
Phew.
So it became the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I think they went on their 30th anniversary this year or last year that passed. They've been in there, and
because they were at the CNE grounds before.
Yes, for a number of years they were there in one of the buildings that was there. It's no longer there now, but
not the Better Living Center.
No,
but
it was its own building. Okay. And so there are a lot of rumors about a ghost being there, and there was one that was the most prominent, and everyone said, "Oh, that's the ghost of Dorothy." And for years, everybody said this ghost of Dorothy, it was a girl that shot herself and she died, and she still haunts the bank or the Hockey Hall of Fame now. And people keep having occurrences of running into her, just little appearances here and there, her on staircases, just floating around.
Did she worked there?
And she worked, that's the thing. There was rumors going around that this person worked there and this happened, but there was never any concrete evidence. And it always used to frustrate me because I was like, okay, great. You made money by publishing that, but like, there's nothing to back it. So it's just, is it real? Thankfully, in 2007, the Toronto Star said, yes, it's real. And here's her actual name. It's Dorothea May Elliott. And she was an actual person. She was working there back in 1953. And she became very distraught. Took the .38 caliber gun that was there for guarding the bank and shot herself in one of the upper floor, apparently in a bathroom. And early in the morning, March 11th, 1953. So the family wanted to keep that story about her silent and basically said to all media, don't say what her name was, say Dorothy, that's fine, but nothing else. But in 2007, they finally felt okay to reveal it. They said we didn't want people making fun of Dorothea and, the troubled life that she had and what happened. And I can understand that when, but I kind of feel like also that if that information had come out earlier, there wouldn't have been so many rumors and the story wouldn't have gathered that much attention, because a lot of people unfortunately commit suicide and people die every day. And it's not until tales like that grow that they really become iconic and become legendary or an urban myth. So, the story is out now, and they now have there's a face to put to the ghost. So
has Kevin Shea ever encountered Dorothea?
He's blogged about Dorothy and Dorothea and wrote about the whole story. I tried to contact him about it before this, and I wasn't able to get in contact with him. But hopefully soon I'll be able to see if he has.
He's a busy man, right?
If he has a personal story of that, because he's been at the Hockey Hall of Fame for a number of years, helping them out.
Love it so much. There is one building that we also saved for 2025. And that's why off the top, when I played the song from the Casa Loma Orchestra, I was thinking maybe J-Ho is going to talk about Casa Loma being haunted.
You know, I have looked for things on Casa Loma over the years, and a lot of people agree that it's not haunted.
Well, I have inside info from the aforementioned Midtown Gord. Okay. Midtown Gord, who will receive this book that I'm going to share with him at some point, and I mentioned he lives near Casa Loma. He worked at Casa Loma for 12 years.
Yes.
And he says he spent many, many hours alone in Casa Loma in the middle of the night. And he is 100% certain there is no ghost at Casa Loma. So it sounds like we don't have a ghost story to share with the masses in 2025.
I think part of it might be because Henry Pellet didn't pass away in the house, and I don't think his wife did either. He actually died in his what was it, his gardener's house. He took pity on him when he lost all of his money and let him live at his house.
That's a great story too.
So sometimes, unless even with Dorothy, the last ghost that we mentioned, she actually didn't pass away in the bank, but they think maybe that's where her spirit left her. So that's,
Also, I'm wondering now if there will be ghosts haunting the Ontario Science Centre kiosk that will be showing up at the Sherway Gardens. Because when Doug Ford's government said we're going to close Ontario Science Centre, and then I joked on Twitter, that the future Ontario Science Centre will be a kiosk in the Cloverdale Mall. And I didn't realize how close I would be to being correct, because I heard it's going, at least one of the two locations it'll be kind of moving to is Sherway Gardens here in Etobicoke.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not sure if it'd be a kiosk. That's me adding a little comedic effect. We'll find out. But I didn't realize at the time. That's spooky how close I was with my satire there. So is it haunted? Stay tuned. Jeremy Hopkin, what I like about your appearances is I'm reminded how interesting this city is and what a rich history we have. Oh, cool. And basically how much I love I'm actually a history major, so I'm a double major at U of T. One of the majors was history. Always loved history because you know what I love? I love a good story.
Amazing. I could tell it a little bit through your blog because you would go to a lot of Doors Open places and write a lot about history. So I've stumbled across your writing a lot of times.
Well, I
really
love
cool.
your writing, and I wish you nothing but good luck tonight. Where is the award ceremony tonight?
It's at one of the buildings we talked about before. One of the ones that was saved was the Carlu.
Of course. Yeah, I've been to a couple events there.
Eaton's College Street. So I think they pretty much take over the whole area of Carlu and have the awards in the auditorium portion. But everybody schmoozes around the hallways and in the other rooms. So yeah, that's going on there tonight. So that'll be nice. I even brought a piece of it here that one day. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. You've been a welcome addition to the TMU, the Toronto Mike Universe. You're a valued FOTM, and we're going to do this again in the first quarter of 2025, but I'll see you at Palma's Kitchen on November 30th.
For sure, and thanks again for having me, and it's been a great year. Thank you for everything. It's been nice being welcomed into the TMU family.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,572nd show. You can follow me at torontomike.com. I've been writing there for, since 2002. What's that math? 22 years? Jeremy, where's the best place to follow you?
You can follow me on at Hopkin Design or Jeremy Hopkin at pretty much any social media out there, except I'm not on Mastodon yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Who's got time for all these Twitter wannabes?
I don't have time for it, but I'm trying to spread out. And
Blue Sky is my alternative.
Yes.
When I leave Twitter, Blue Sky is where I'm going.
Blue Sky is getting better and better every day, and a lot more people are coming over lately in surges. Every time Elon does something weird, they come over.
What time is it? He's probably done something weird today. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Raymond James Canada, Moneris, and Ridley Funeral Home. See you all later this week when my special guest in person in the basement is Canadian musician legend Chantal Kreviazek. That's a big deal, right, J-Ho?
Very cool, yeah.
See you all then, and have a happy Halloween.
By memories that refuse to die. I can't get away from a vision that brings intimate glimpses of intimate things. A voice in my heart like a tart singer sings. I wonder who's kissing her now. The house is haunted by the echo of your favorite song. The place is cluttered up with roses that have lived too long, much too long. The ceiling is white, but the shadows are black. A ghost in my heart says she'll never come back. The house is haunted by the echo of your last goodbye.